What happens when a network sees a hit film, panics, and decides it wants its own version for TV? Out of that came a series with real charm, a cracking setup, and enough behind-the-scenes problems to make it a bit of a mess. So how did a show that looked like it had all the right ingredients get killed off just as it was finding its feet? Let's find out. This is the history of Tales of the Gold Monkey. The whole idea started with Don Belisario trying to get an adventure series off the ground built out of his love for 1930s films and novels, especially Only Angels Have Wings, The Treasure of Sierra Madre, and Key Largo. Then Raiders of the Lost Ark came out, and that's where everything took a real turn, because Belisario had pitched Gold Monkey a couple of years earlier, but the networks turned it down. But once Raiders came out and became a huge hit, ABC had a change of heart, but they were now looking at it as their own rip-off of Indiana Jones for TV, which was bloody rich coming from them. But Belisario wasn't trying to make some cheap, half-assed knockoff for suits chasing the next big thing. He was trying to make something more relationship and character-driven. Out of that tug-of-war came a series built around Jake Cutter, an ex-pilot in 1938 flying Rum and Goose for hire around the fictional South Seas outpost of Bora Bora. He would scrape a living by taking whatever flying jobs came his way, with each one dragging him into trouble with crooks, spies, and the growing tension in the region as the world edged towards World War II. And while all of this was getting put together, something else got changed: the title. It was originally going to be called Tales of the Brass Monkey, but legal trouble axed the idea, so they changed it to Tales of the Gold Monkey. Now with ABC on board, the project was moving forward as a full 22-episode season, only now Belisario had to make the damn thing work. With Gold Monkey going into production, the next job was obvious: find people who could actually sell this mad tropical adventure without making it look like total bollocks. Stephen Collins landed the role of Jake Cutter. By his own admission, he was not some hard nut in real life. Jake, though, was a two-fisted, old-school hero, so casting Stephen in that part was a bit of a laugh in itself. From there, the focus turned to Sarah Stinkney White. Belisario wanted a woman who felt she had stepped straight out of a 1930s adventure picture and not some useless passenger hanging about just to be rescued. So Caitlin O'Henny got the part. With the two leads now in place, the rest of the cast started taking shape. Jeff McKay came in as Corky, and Les Yankee got the role of Gushy. Then came Louis, and that one got a bit messy. Ron Moody played him in the pilot until things got heated behind the scenes, and Roddy McDowell took over for the rest of the series. And finally, there was Leo as Jack the One-Eyed Dog. Apparently, the production couldn't find a trained Jack Russell anywhere in the entire United States, so they had to have one shipped over from the other side of the bloody world in Australia. But the poor thing got hit by a car at the airport on its way over, which meant they had to leg it to an animal shelter and find Leo instead.
Jack, what are you trying to pull?
With that lot in place, Gold Monkey had its lineup, and from there, the next big job was giving the thing a proper score. The legendary Mike Post and Peter Carpenter handled the main title theme, while Frank Denson took care of the episode's score. That gave the series a proper split between the bit that hooked you in and the score carrying the episodes. The episode music had to do the heavy lifting once things kicked off, whether Jake was back in the air, in a scrap, or stuck in another bit of madness. And thankfully, it all fit the show without sounding like some muppet had nicked the music from two different series and just rammed it together. With the music sorted, it came down to the only thing that really mattered: would the audience actually give a crap? When Tales of the Gold Monkey finally premiered in September '82, the early response wasn't bad. Some critics picked up on the show's pulpy, campy side straight away, which fit the kind of old school adventure it was actually going for. The show clearly had an audience from the start, even if it wasn't being treated like a big hit. The ratings were solid enough, and the show did get some recognition later on with 4 Emmy nominations and a win for Outstanding Art Direction. But then you got to the network bullshit, because even though the show was doing alright, the executives were looking at it as one of the most expensive pilots ever made and a series that cost a fortune to keep running, and that was making them really twitchy.
Jake, an outrigger!
The pilot was shot partly in Hawaii for the real feel, but once that was done, the rest of the show was being hammered out on the Universal backlot. And right from the start, the scale of it was a big problem. They had massive jungle sets, working waterfalls, and a full plane sitting on a backlot lake, and all sorts of other moving parts. Episodes that should have taken around 6 days were dragging out to 8 or 9. The schedule started slipping and the whole thing became a proper drag. Then things finally steadied a bit. A young director, Harvey Laidman, came in and actually managed to get an episode finished on bloody schedule. After that, the production loved him like some kind of godsend, because at that stage, anyone who could keep the thing from going to shit was basically treated like a lifesaver. Even the monkey bar exterior was a pain in the ass, because every time they were shooting out there, the Universal tour trams kept rolling past and stopping everything. Then there were the on-set moments that went Pete Tong. During the pilot, Stephen Collins said he nearly got killed twice. One of those moments came in a fight scene with John Hillerman, aka Higgins, from Magnum P.I. They were supposed to go over into the water near the waterfall, but right before they did, Collins was told that Hillerman couldn't swim, which isn't exactly the sort of thing you want to hear seconds before chucking yourself into the damn water. Once they went under, Hillerman panicked and grabbed hold of Collins, trying to get himself up while forcing Collins down, before one of the crew jumped in and pulled Hillerman out. Collins said that if they had pulled Hillerman off a few seconds later, he would have been a goner. Then there was the other one, which was just as bloody bad. Near the end of the pilot, there's a scene where Jake runs into the water and grabs onto the side of the plane while it's getting ready to take off. The problem was, once Collins grabbed on, the plane started moving faster and faster. Eventually, someone shouted loud enough at the pilot and managed to get him to stop, but Collins said it scared the hell out of him and he really thought the plane might actually take off.
I picked this up on Tagatai for you.
Jake, how sweet.
You're not gonna let up till I get your eye back, are
And
you?
with all that shit going on, the really mad part was that the show was only just starting to come together before it got the chop. The network side of it started being a right pain in the ass, because the real issue was Belisario wanted to make his version of the series, while the network kept pushing it towards a Raiders of the Ark knockoff. By that point, he was fed up with arguing every week over what the show was supposed to be, and Belisario decided he wanted out. ABC and Universal though wanted a second season, but Belisario turned it down. So the network decided to pull the plug, and Gold Monkey was done, dusted, buried, which left them with a bit of a problem. Because they had finished the show thinking they would probably be back for a second season, there was no proper ending. And that didn't go down quietly. Universal got flooded with calls more than they had been done in years when the cancellation hit. People were pissed, confused, and a bit stunned the show got the axe. But none of that fan reaction made a bloody bit of difference. It was over for Gold Monkey. After the whole thing wrapped up, the show didn't just disappear, it kind of hung around. It kept showing up through fan groups, conventions, and later people online talking about it year after year. Not bad for something that only got one season back in the early 80s. There were proper meetups as well, with cast and crew getting pulled back in because the thing still had a following. And then it found its way back properly. The complete series landed on DVD in the UK and Australia in 2009 and then turned up in the US in 2010. And they didn't just chuck the episodes in a box and call it a day. The sets came with the pilot, a making of documentary, galleries, and a booklet, so there was actually some decent stuff in there. And that was not the only way it stuck around, because years later you could see traces of it in things like Tailspin. As for my own take on it, I thought the show was kind of cool. I'm surprised it didn't last longer, because it felt like exactly the sort of thing early 80s TV should have kept around. It had adventure, charm, a strong setup, and even with the network leaning on it to be broader and more cartoonish, there was still enough of Belisario's love for those older films and novels to give it some real character. Even watching it today, it's still alright. Yeah, it's got its problems, but it's not some forgettable piece of shit, because underneath all the issues, it's still a fun little show to watch and deserved a hell of a lot better than what it got. Now, for fans who want to add the series to their collection, I've added a link in the description below, and there should also be a card popping up on screen to help you check it out. Now, we're not done yet. Next time, we take a look at another forgotten series. Until then, why don't you check out our previous video on The Fall Guy.
Ex-cons in a nudist camp could be too hot, even for the Fall Guy.
Thanks for watching, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.